What's up? Episode 23 of the TJ Martino podcast. We're here. And this is going to be a really fun episode because guess what? If you're watching, we are on video for the first time ever. I am on video, and I figured, why not for the first video episode, sit down and do it by myself. So I'm sitting here alone, actually, on this Sunday night. A solo episode. I haven't done one in quite some time, but I figured, why not? I got some things to talk about. Some things I definitely need to get off my chest, but I'm going to save the sports stuff for the end of the episode, and my Sixers rant for the end of the episode, because I don't really want to get into it at the beginning. I feel like I always start off with sports, and I feel like that can be unappealing to some people. So we're going to get into some other stuff, and then get into my Sixers and NBA stuff at the end. But first of all, yeah, I'm on video. So I'm trying to get more cameras. I'm just testing out the video, just seeing how, I want to edit it and stuff. So I guess you could say this is kind of a test in some ways. But, I think it's just helpful for me to just, figure out how to maneuver editing video and this kind of audio at the same time. So, yeah, first thing I want to talk about is something that is kind of life-changing for me right now because, with COVID and everything that's going on, I've been very lazy and it's been bad. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I'm no longer in school. I'm trying to find a job and, I just moved back home with my parents. So I'm kind of in this weird limbo period between living on my own and, being a college kid and a student for the majority of my life. So right now, it's been kind of hard for me to get my life on track, but starting tomorrow, or today as you're listening, because it'll be Monday, I am officially cutting weight again. So my thing with me and weight, for those of you that don't know, my weight fluctuates a lot. I gain and lose weight pretty easily. My metabolism, it is what it is. It's pretty good. I would say it's definitely a quality that I'm proud of in myself. But yeah, my weight fluctuates a lot, but right now I'm probably on the thicker side. I weigh about 220. I weighed myself tonight, 219.8. So I weigh 219.8 pounds. I don't know what that would be in kilograms for my European and, other world folks. But other world folks, it's a weird way to say that, but, you know what I mean? It's kind of, it's a little bit on the heavier side from my personal preference. I wouldn't say that I'm overweight. I wouldn't say that. I've never necessarily been overweight. I've been close. The most I've weighed is about 245, 250, and that was my senior year of high school. So now I'm just trying to get back down to where I weighed about in my junior year of college, which I jumped a bunch of weight once I got to college. And by my junior year, I weighed about 185. I want to get back to about there because that's when I was in really good shape. And I really felt at my most comfortable and at my best. And I think there's just been so many evenings, especially after I eat a bunch of food, because I've been eating so much food over this COVID and this whole quarantine. So the fact that I've been eating so much food, it just makes me feel bloated at night, especially when I'm trying to go to bed. And I feel like I get a lot of heartburn while I'm sleeping, and it's just I don't feel healthy, and the food that I'm eating doesn't make me feel good. It feels good when you're eating it, when you're consuming it, but once, it starts to settle inside of your system, you start to realize that you made a mistake. And that would happen to me all the time when I would go to McDonald's and get way more food than I should ever be eating. And a lot of that really just, it weighed on me this summer, physically and mentally. Because I feel like when you eat unhealthy, it affects your mood. I don't know. It's definitely done that for me. But at the same time, it's so addicting. And it's because the food has so much salt and so much sugar and so much sodium in it that, it just keeps you coming back for more. It almost fucks with your brain a little bit in some cases, especially when you're eating it as much as I was. So for me, I'm trying to get down to the 185 range, trying to get down to that middleweight weight class for all my fighting fans out there. That's where I'm trying to get to. So you're probably asking, how are you going to do that, TJ? That's a tall task. And I think a lot of it just comes down to my diet. I'm cutting out fast food. I'm trying to wane off of wane. Is that how you say it? Or lean off? I'll say lean off. I'm trying to lean off of soda pop. I'm very addicted to soda pop. And if you ask me if I pronounce it soda or pop, I say soda pop. I say both. So, like the character in The Outsiders. So I'm trying to cut out soda pop from my diet and from my life. And I don't know. We'll see how it goes. If anything, I'm just gonna drink like Diet Coke, because that's not as bad. I feel like, even though it kind of is, it's not as bad. Come on, it's not as bad. It's bad, but not as bad. And also exercise. I'm gonna be running every day. I'm gonna try to, at least, I'm gonna say 4 or 5 days a week. I'm gonna try and run. And I'm getting back in the weight room because I have lost a lot of muscle mass. Like I just feel my arms and my legs, and they just feel very soft. And when they used to feel robust and, had consistency, now they're just becoming flabby because I'm losing muscle because I'm not exercising. I've not been exercising. I haven't really hit the weight room since March. So it's been a lot. And I've been not kind to my body, and I think this is just the perfect time for me to just get it together. And I think for all of you as well, if you haven't already, now's a good time. I mean, no better time to get that immune system strong and prepared for, the obstacles of the winter along with the pandemic. No better time to better your health than right now, I suppose. So I'm figuring tomorrow I'm going to try. I've been using applications on my phone a lot, and I've also been using like calendars and things like that. I'm trying to, I don't know, just make it more organized for myself so that, when in a month from now or 2 from now, I can sit back and just look at my weight and say, okay, where am I at? Am I being too unhealthy? Am I not eating enough? Or am I still eating too much? And most of the time I'm still eating too much. I mean, I never undereat. I have that Italian blood in me. So that's kind of the thing that works against me, because everybody has those obstacles that they get from doing weight loss, whether it be their metabolism. Like a lot of people are way more overweight than I am when it comes to losing weight, and they want to lose more weight. So obviously there's a lot more work that goes into that. But for me, it's just my diet. That's going to be my obstacle. And it's just sitting down and having to resist sweets, because that is the bane of my existence. Ice cream, cookies, anything of that nature, candy, anything sweet. So it's a struggle. The struggle is real when that stuff is propelled into your face, and it's hard to say no, especially when your peers are trying to eat candy in front of you, because then it's just like, oh, you really got to do that to me like that. Like you really gotta to rub it in like that and really eat that. And especially when I'm cutting weight, it's the worst. It's literally like it's torture. Like that's a good way to torture somebody, is just starve them and then eat sweets around them. That's what they should do in like Guantanamo Bay. They should just like strap people up and not feed them for like a day. I'm not saying like starve them to death. I'm just saying like, make sure that they're still healthy, but torture them not, physically through waterboarding or anything unethical like that. Just sit around them with a giant cake and tie their hands up so they can't get any, and question them while you eat the cake. I feel like that could work. I don't know. I digress, but back to weight loss. Like I said, eating cake, eating all that stuff, I just need to cut it out. And that's me personally. For those of you that feel comfortable eating whatever you want and can do that with no consequences, I'm happy for you. You are, and you should be too, because you're one of a few. But for the rest of us out here struggling, I feel you guys. I feel you. The struggle is real out here, folks. And, I'll keep updates as I keep going with more episodes of the pod. I'm going to come on here and give like a weight update. But as of right now, I'm 219.8 as of tonight. Sunday, whatever, August something. But yeah, so we'll keep an update on that. But anyway, let's talk about something else. A big thing that went on this weekend was the DC Fandome event. So DC basically dropped their slate of video games, movies, shows, I guess, for the future, as they've now fully partnered with HBO, and Warner Brothers is now, I guess, Warner Max is what they're, advertising themselves as now. I don't know. Who knows? It's very confusing, but I kind of wanted to talk about this. I kind of wanted to talk about this just because I've been somebody that's been very critical of the DC movies, and it's not because I'm a hater or because of anything like that. It's just I'm honestly just don't think they're good movies. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, and I wish they were a lot better. When you look at the DC, universe over the past 10 years, since Man of Steel, which was a movie I found to be really boring, they haven't really dropped anything of merit other than Wonder Woman. I think the first Wonder Woman was really good, and just about everything else was at least, pretty bad. Shazam was another one that I thought was fun. I thought that one was okay. It wasn't the worst thing ever, but I've only seen it once, so that tells you all you need to know. But Wonder Woman was one that I found to be really good, and the rest of them kind of blah. So the problem is that they didn't take their time. They didn't take the time to actually, create the story they wanted to tell, and instead they were just trying to play catch up with Disney and Marvel. And so that's why all of the other movies, Batman vs. Superman, Suicide Squad, the Justice League, all of those failed miserably just because, there just wasn't there wasn't enough care taken into any of the characters. They just kind of were trying too hard to set up the next movie instead of just, telling a good story. So moving forward, that's just kind of my context on the DC universe as of right now. But now we have the new slate of movies coming out next year because, they're going to milk this property, DC Comics, for all it's worth. And if I'm them, I don't blame them. Marvel has made and Disney have made unbelievable amounts of money making these superhero movies. And when you have these intellectual properties like Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman, you got to use them. And especially in this time, even when the market is oversaturated, people are going to watch a Batman movie regardless. Even if it sucks, people will go see it once. I mean, look at Batman versus Superman. That movie sucked and people went and saw it. I went and saw it. I was severely disappointed in the theater. I'll never forget that scene with the Martha thing towards the end of the movie. I remember just looking at my friends that I was in the theater with and being like, you got to be kidding me. I literally verbally said, you got to be kidding me. That was my reaction to that. But looking forward, okay, I keep looking backwards. Let's look forward now. So basically with this DC Fandom event, this is basically like the DC's version of Comic-Con and Disney, D23, like that kind of thing, where they basically just come out and generate excitement and buzz for their new projects. So we got some trailers here for video games and stuff that I'm never going to play. We got a Static Shock movie, a Flash movie, Shazam sequel that were all announced, but I don't think they got any footage released. I'm just looking here. But all of the trailers I did watch, and it's really interesting. It's really interesting stuff. I will say, as somebody that has been a big skeptic of these DC movies, not because I'm a DC hater. I love DC Comics characters, I think, more than Marvel's, and that's almost what makes me more critical, is that I want these movies to be as good as, the Nolan movies were, but, in a more comic-y way than those movies were. I think this, so, I was really excited to see what they could do with this, and, they dropped the ball, but now this is their chance to bounce back. So, first movie I want to talk about is The Batman. Speaking of the Nolan movies, since I brought them up, let's talk about it. Matt Reeves is the Batman. So this movie has been tossed around in production hell for about 4 or 5 years now that I can remember. Maybe a little bit less than that, probably like 3 or 4 years. It's been tossed around since Justice League, I think, when they decided that they were going to pivot from the Ben Affleck Batman. Because originally this was going to be the Ben Affleck Batman solo movie, titled The Batman. And then I guess Affleck and Warner Brothers had some sort of disagreement, and Affleck dropped from the project, and then enter Planet of the Apes director Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson as Batman. And a lot of people were critical. I personally was a huge fan of the Pattinson move. I've been a fan of it from the start. I think Pattinson's really underrated as as an actor. I really became a fan of him after The Lighthouse. I thought he was great in that, and I was like, this dude could definitely be Batman. And as it looks to this trailer, I think it looks really, really, really gritty, and that's something that I'm interested in, to see kind of a young novice Batman in this kind of gritty setting. I think could be really fun, and I just hope they don't pull punches. I hope with how dark this looks, it is as violent and dark as they're making it seem like it's going to be. I'm all for that. I think Pattinson looks good in the Batman suit. I think it looks interesting. The villains, I mean, we don't really get a lot of the Riddler, but we see obviously that he's going to be a part of this movie in some regard. Yeah, I mean, I'm on board. I think it looks really good. I think it looks gritty. I think I thought Batman was the best represented character out of the DC movies. Ben Affleck's Batman was the furthest of my complaints from those movies, I would say. So, yeah, it's all right. I think this movie looks really fun. Now, I don't know. Watching Batman, there's a couple of shots that I really liked. I like the moment where the guy's like, who are you? And then he goes to swing on him, and then he just goes, you think he's gonna say I'm Batman, but he says I'm Vengeance, which was kind of a cool little twist, I guess. But I have to go into this with a grain of salt, because we've already seen so many different interpretations of Batman in the past 10 years. I mean, we had the wrap up of the Nolan stuff, like I mentioned, and then obviously Affleck, and now Pattinson. And I don't know if this is going to have, what kind of connection this is going to have to the movies that have already come out, like the Ben Affleck Batman. Is this going to have a connection to that in some regard? Or because I guess they're going to go the multiverse route, is what I've been hearing. So they're just going to basically say all of our movies over the past 40 years are connected through this multiverse, because we can't explain continuity. So we're just throwing continuity out the window is essentially what they're doing. And I mean, that's fine. But for this, I feel like people are going to be muddled with what this connection this has. Is this a continuation or some sort of installment in, the Nolan series, or is this, a prequel to the Ben Affleck Batman? So I'm kind of tentative in the sense that the normal viewer, the casual viewer, is not going to understand what connection this has to anything. But honestly, who cares? Like, who really cares? If this movie's good, it's good. And if it's bad, it's bad. So I think it looks good, but trailers are trailers. I take them with a grain of salt. I just really almost look at them to see the look of the movie more than the plot, because when there's a plot in the trailer, that's usually a red flag. And there isn't really with this movie, so I like the ambiguousness of it. I like the grittiness of it. I like how they're hinting at violence here. A lot of, gritty darkness to a novice Batman. I think that's kind of a really cool idea. So now we go to the Snyder Cut. The Justice League Snyder Cut trailer has dropped as well, which will be coming out on HBO Max in a 4-hour, 4-part mini-series on HBO. So, wow, they really shot that much footage, and they really cut that much footage. I mean, holy cow. Like, 4 hours worth of footage was cut? Like, what was the movie we got in theaters? That's my question. Like, what did we get in theaters then? If they cut all of that, or most of it, even if there's an hour of it that made it into the original cut, like the fact that there's this much that was left on the floor just tells you how much of a mess the original theatrical cut of the Justice League was. Now, as for this, again, I think it's going for this darker, grittier look, but at the same time, I like how it's going for this really, they said they're comparing it to like I like how they got the dark Superman going with the dark suit. I liked the song that they used, the Hallelujah song. I thought that kind of added like a, it had like like a sim. I'm sorry, they had like a symbolic symbolism to it. I can't think of a word right now. Yeah, it had like a symbolism to it using that song because, they're saying hallelujah, we're finally getting the Snyder cut. Like, finally, like it's about time because people had been demanding for this for God knows how long. But I think it looks fun. I don't know. I'm interested. It looks like they're going to dive into these characters a lot more, or at least they had planned to dive into these characters a lot more than we obviously got in the Justice League movie. But if this can just be more watchable than the Justice League movie, that's all I'm asking for. And the bar is pretty low. So, like I said, I'm just happy that, like I said, hallelujah. I'm happy that we're getting a new Snyder cut. I think this is something that I think a lot of directors could do in the future too on movies that maybe didn't go their way, having almost a mulligan, even though I would argue that the Justice League we got was more of a Joss Whedon movie than a Snyder movie. But, I'm excited. I think this could be fun. This was probably one of the most excited outside of the Batman that I was for a trailer. I think this looks really fun. And who knows? Even if it's shit, who cares? Like, it can't be any worse than the original Justice League theatrical cut that we got. Can it? Can it be worse than that? Because that movie is really not good. But yeah, hallelujah. We got the Snyder cut. That's all I got to say about that. Now we're going on to Wonder Woman 84 trailer. So we got a trailer for that. This sequel was supposed to come out in like 2018, right? Or 20, I think it was supposed to come out last summer, and they postponed it. Because I think they postponed it last year. I don't remember the whole story behind it, but we're getting it next year. That's the point. And, I just think the CG in this doesn't look great. I think the CG for the cheetah, is that that character who's going to be the villain in this? She doesn't look great. Kristen Wiig, I think, plays her. Like, the CG does not look great. You see some of the fight scene in this trailer. It doesn't look great. The 80s parachute pants joke at the end was really corny. But with all that said, I still think this is going to be a fun movie. Like I said, I loved the original Wonder Woman a lot more than I thought I was going to. I thought it looked really bad by the trailers, and it actually ended up being a really fun movie in theaters. So if this brings that same kind of energy, and even with a little bit of 80s flair and some cool colors, I'm all for it, man. If prove me wrong. But I mean, this doesn't look as good as the first one. Just off the bat, I'm going to say that, but because I love the gritty World War I theme that they had going there. But, who knows? This could be really fun. So, Wonder Woman has probably got the most promise out of any of these characters as you're looking for a cohesive storyline. So, let's see. And I think the same director, Patty Jenkins, I think her name is. I think she's coming back to do this movie too. So, yeah. Then we got the Suicide Squad, which didn't have necessarily a trailer. It just had like a little cut of all of the characters and then a behind the scenes, thing. But I don't know. My thoughts on the Suicide Squad. I hated the original Suicide Squad movie. I hated it. I thought it was terrible. Like, I literally thought it was terrible. I thought it was I think it may be the worst of the DC movies. Like, it is awful. And, I like David Ayer too. I was very excited for it. And that was maybe what made me even more upset about it, because me and a friend of mine went and saw it in theaters together. I remember we saw it and he walked out with about 15 minutes left. I stayed and watched the end of the movie. But he walked out. He literally walked out and left the theater. And then, like, I texted him, like, hey, are you still here after the movie? He's like, nah, man, I left. And I was like, really? You couldn't handle it? He's like, that was just too terrible. I couldn't stick around. And I'm like, okay, I understand. It was a terrible movie. Yeah, it just, no. If you've seen it, you understand how much. And maybe I'll go into it someday. But what I'm gonna say is that having James Gunn on this, I think, is a big improvement. I think just having a full, again, I hope that Warner Brothers just lets James Gunn make this movie the way he wants to, because their interference with a lot of these movies is partially the reason that a lot of them suck, if I'm being completely honest. But you know, I think I like the cast in this one. A lot of interesting new characters being brought in here. So, I mean, I don't know. We'll see. There's a lot of funny, colorful looking characters in here that I think James Gunn could have a lot of fun with. And, there's going to be a lot of that, witty humor that we got from Guardians of the Galaxy and some of those Marvel movies. We're going to see that kind of maybe brought in here with a little bit more of an edge, because they're pitching this, I think, as like a war movie kind of is what they said they wanted this to be. And there's a lot of set pieces that they show in this behind the scenes thing. So I don't know. I'm excited. I'm excited for Suicide Squad. We'll see. I mean, I'm excited for all these movies, even a little bit. Even if they suck, like at this point, I'll take anything. And as long if it's good, I'll keep watching it. If it's not, I'm gonna trash it. So, I think this looks kind of fun. And who knows? Maybe it's the hit of 2021. Maybe it's the surprise. But then again, maybe it's just as crappy as the original one, and this is just a property that should not be used. But we got, John Cena in this one, and Idris Elba stepping in, but you also get some of the old characters from the original one. So it's, a mixed bag. They're taking some of the, best parts of the original and trying to add some new to it. So I'm all for it. What the hell? And then lastly, we have the Black Adam trailer. So this is, I guess, going to be, this is The Rock's film where he's playing Black Adam, who is, I guess, going to be the, opposition of Shazam, I guess, of some sort. But this looks fun. Like I said, it's about time The Rock steps into a superhero franchise. We'll see what happens with this. This movie's been in production for a while. It was announced a couple of years ago, so I'm just happy to see it reach the light of day, and the fact that we're just getting some new characters in here as well. And introducing, opening the door to more new characters in this universe. What the hell? Why not? Give me anything, DC. And that's kind of be my point here, is just, I've been frustrated with DC for the past decade because of how bad the movies they've made over, Batman vs. Superman, disappointment. Justice League, terrible. Suicide Squad, terrible. So it's been frustrating, but for me, honestly, at this point, I just want to see them make good solo individual movies. Like, I don't need a whole storyline at this point like Marvel. Like, if they would have taken their time and did it the right way, then it could have been earned. But at this point, they're just caught in a weird crossroads where they had this thing where they were trying to be Marvel, and it didn't work because they rushed it, and now they're just trying to make as much money as they can off this property before it's too late. But, whatever. Should be fun. Can't wait for these movies. Moving on to my final topic, which is the NBA playoffs. Yes, folks. My 76ers. Let's talk about it. So the Sixers got swept today by the Boston Celtics in 4 games in the Eastern Conference first round. It's just about as disappointing of a season as you can get. I mean, when you saw my preview, I had high hopes for the Sixers team. I had us second in the East. I had us winning over 55 games this year. But my biggest problems, if you go back and check, I mentioned that, the spacing was going to be an issue, and the ball handling and who was going to take the shot at the end of the game, those things were all going to be red flags for me, and they ended up being a lot more of a concern than I was hoping. And I think the point where I'd really lost hope in the Sixers winning a championship this year was about in February. That was the time where I think it really hit a low point. Ben had gotten hurt, Joel had gotten hurt, but then the Corona hit, and we had this big break where, everybody got a chance to get healthy. We saw shots of Ben working on his 3, and Brett was like Ben Simmons is shooting more threes than he has in his entire career, and all of this stuff, getting us hyped. And then we come into the bubble, and we see this team come out and look about as flat as a pop tire in their first game against the Pacers. Came out, shot horribly, turned the ball over, looked about as bad as they did in February. I remember just sitting there and saying, this team looks just as bad as it did in February. Like, I can't believe they haven't missed an absolute step. And it's ridiculous because of what they had promised us and what we got, which was just sloppy basketball, careless basketball, lack of effort on defense. And look, when Ben Simmons went down, I knew this team was going to get swept. And I had predicted this team was going to get swept. It became pretty evident to me. They stopped giving a shit. And you could tell. It was pretty frustrating, especially in that game 4, just watching them roll over, just completely roll over to let me say, a very good Boston Celtics team, but a beatable Boston Celtics team with very little size. Although Tice did play well in this series, but that's even just the cusp of the issues. Because look, I knew we probably weren't going to win this series. I said we were going to get swept, but I just wanted to see some guys step up and make tough shots. Just step up, create shots. I want to see Tobias Harris put the team on his back and just go out there and score 30 points a game, even if we lose every game. Go out there, and just show us that you earned this contract, this ridiculous $180 million contract that we gave you this offseason. And what did he do? He averaged 13 points a game. 13 points a game in this series. As a $25 million a year player or whatever. Are you kidding me? Like, dude, you're getting all this guaranteed money and that's the performance we get? It was ridiculous. It really was. It was really ridiculous to watch. And look, I know he was taking good shots and just they weren't falling, but dude, it's the playoffs. I don't want to hear any excuses. And the shooting was horrendous throughout this entire series. I think game 3 was like really one of the only games we shot well in. But off the bat, game 1, the turnovers, everything, it was a nightmare. Game 2 was close, I think, but we ended up crapping the bed in typical Sixers fashion. And, game 3 was frustrating, and today was just an absolute flattening. Like, you want to just suck the air out of a movement. That's how you do it right there. And look, Joel, what do you want me to say about Joel? He's been fantastic. He's definitely been the only bright spot on this team. He's giving effort every single night. He looked great tonight, I will say. And he's looked great all series. He looked great in the bubble. He is great. He's a great player. And when he's healthy, he's one of the best in the league. But the players around him are going to be an issue for this team. And moving forward, the cap space is going to be an issue for this team. And the shooting is going to be an issue for this team because, we saw tonight there's just nothing. No offense. The offense is horrendous. And look, there's 2 things that I want to blame for the Sixers not winning this series and not being the team that I had hoped that they were going to be back in, October of last year, or September, or whenever I made that podcast. The thing is that what happened is that it came down to 2 things that I blame, and that's the front office and Brett Brown. And let me blame both of them because they both deserve the same amount of blame here. Let's talk about Brett Brown. Brett was hired about 7 seasons ago during the process when the Sixers were about as terrible of a team as you could possibly imagine. And he coached us through the process into a championship contending team in 2017 through, this year. And, I was really big on Brett when he first came to Philly. And then as it went on and on, every year that went by, I became less and less fond of Brett. But I defended him. I defended him up until this season. I would say around February was when I started to get on the fire Brett Brown train. And since then, that train has taken off, man. It has gone down the tracks because I when this series started, I was like, this guy, he's just got to go. And look, I respect Brett Brown as a coach. I respect him as a man. I think he's a great man. But just as an X's and O's basketball coach, he just gets out-coached by every single other coach in the league, it seems like. It seems like every other coach has his number. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating to watch him get outcoached by Nick Nurse and Nick McMillan. And, like I said, all these different coaches and Steve Clifford for the Magic outcoached him in the bubble. We watched the Magic just own us. And Monty Williams outcoached us earlier in the year with the Suns. There's just been so many games, even before the bubble, where this team just would blow leads. They get up big in the third or fourth quarter and then just suck it out and lose and drop 15 in a row, lose the game. Some player on the team that comes off the bench and averages 11 points a game, scores 39 on us and has 14 rebounds in an amazing game. The TJ Warren of the world, and or we get some game winner hit on us. It's always some bullshit. And, this is no different. So looking forward, what do we do with Horford? What do we do with Harris? I say we try and get rid of Horford first. He is just dead weight on this team. What an awful pickup. And this is where I get into the blaming of the front office. Let's talk about that before we move forward. The front office gets the blame because this kind of goes into moving forward. The front office gets the blame here because of the moves. I thought the Jimmy Butler trade was a good trade, even though we lost Covington, who was a great player. I thought the Tobias Harris trade at the time was interesting and was bold, but we lost Landry Shamet, who's a good shooter, and we lost draft capital. And all of the moves that Elton Brand has made, those moves included, were ballsy, and I liked them at the time. But it wasn't really until the Tobias Harris max and the Al Horford deal that I kind of started questioning. And if you go back and listen, I was kind of skeptical. I wasn't against the moves at the time, but against, obviously now in hindsight, I am. How could you not be? But, at the time I was kind of neither here nor there about it. But, it seemed necessary at the time because we were going for this title run, and I wasn't expecting these two players to fall off as much as they did. And I guess nobody else was either, but it's just disappointing. I think that's just the biggest thing. And the fact that we're stuck with these guys long-term and the fact that we signed them to these long-term deals, that was the thing that kind of made me question things, especially the Horford deal. The Horford deal I thought was really ugly. But I was like, you know what? Like, this could work. This is an experiment. And the experiment failed, unfortunately. But it sounded like a good idea at the time. Big men, bully ball in the paint, unlimited rebounds, offensive glass. It sounded like a great idea. Embiid's one Achilles heel is now on the team, like all of that. And it turned out to be a spacing nightmare, a transition nightmare. Horford significantly decreased on all sides of the ball and was not even close to worth $108 million this year. I would say he was worth about $50 million for his contract after this season. And I think in about 2 or 3 years, that contract is going to look horrendous. And I don't know what we're going to do with that. And Elton Brand, I think, is to blame. I think he was a little too aggressive looking back in hindsight. And I think it just comes from the inexperience of being a GM. And it's a tough position, man. It's not one that I don't think I would be as great at it either, because you got to make a decision and you got to do the right move. And if you're not doing the right move, you're out. So it's a tough road. But again, this is inexcusable. The drafting, Zaire Smith instead of Mikal Bridges, and Bridges played great against us in the bubble. And we picked Zaire Smith, who hasn't played a minute. Markelle Fultz, terrible draft pick. Al Horford, terrible signing. Tobias Harris, terrible max signing. You go down the list. It's just terrible trades throughout. Trades that looked good at the time, but I think our eyes got got way bigger than our stomachs. And at the end of the day, now we're stuck in a position at a crossroads where we're going to decide, obviously I think we're going to move forward from Brett Brown. I think he's gone. He's got to be. We got swept in the first round by a team that was beatable. A very good team, but beatable. At least for a game or two. Even if we would have taken them 6, it would have been better. But the fact that we couldn't even win a game on them is just tells you the mental state of this team and how much they really care at this point. So, they're out. And as for the rest of the playoffs, that Mavericks-Clippers game was fantastic. Doncic is an absolute monster. 40-point triple-double tonight. And three-pointer to win the game. What else can you say, man? The Mavericks look fantastic. And even if they don't make the finals this year, they're going to in a couple of years. And as for Toronto and the Nets played today as well. And wow, Ibaka and Powell had an amazing couple of games for both of them. Face scratch. Off the bench, and they were great. Ibaka especially was fantastic, and Powell was clipping from three. So I'm all for this this Raptors team. They look great, and they swept the Nets. And then Utah has a 3-1 lead on the Nuggets after a close one with Jamal Murray and Donovan Mitchell had a scoring match. I mean, they in Game 3 had that big shootout, and then now they both have 50 points tonight. And Murray is coming alive here. I mean, he didn't really have a lot of time in the bubble to adjust, but he clearly doesn't need it. But looking forward, man. These playoffs are fun, man. They're going to be a very, very fun. I'm very excited to see the second round here as this the first round wraps up. But who do I got here to win as of right now? I still like the Clippers, man. Even though it's a tied series, Dallas is giving them a good fight here, but I like the Clippers. I still like the Clippers. I could be wrong. Houston's looking really good too, and the Lakers are back on track after. But again, watch out for the Lakers shooting. Watch out for that shooting off the bench. That's going to be the big key for them to win games. But yeah, outside of that, man, I'm gonna wrap it up for the playoffs. That's all I really got. I'm just trying to think of last minute thoughts, but yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. I'm gonna do more of these solo episodes every once in a while. I think they're fun. They're a good way to get my thoughts out there without having to corral some guests. But I'm gonna try and get more video as well. So shout out to people watching on video. I'm gonna get more and try and do this more, and we'll keep the ball rolling here. So thanks for everything. Follow me on social media at the TJ Martino Podcast on Instagram, TJ Martino on Twitter, all that. Follow me. Look down below, and the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Watch all the content I'm posting on there. Check it all out. Yeah, thanks for listening, and I will see you guys next time. And let that beat drop.